So basically what happened, right, was that there was a boy that was walking inside of a hill, and one of the things that they found is that from his perspective, he said he could see these gates on the hill, but he says that nobody else could see those gates. It's only he could see them, and that's what allowed him to walk through solid objects. Well, walk through inside of the hill, where he met these very small creatures, these small people, men and women, with dancing and music and things like that. So, something to think about there. There was also another situation where a girl was in a fort, a fairy fort, and she tried to leave the fort, the ancient fort, and there was some kind of she was trying to get through a gap, but there was an invisible wall stopping her from getting through, and it would actually turn her physically around, so she'd be facing the fort again. So she was panic stricken, and when it got dark, the search and rescue people, she could see them in the distance, and they were only about 20 to 30 yards away. So she shouted to them, and they couldn't hear her. It was like she was non-existent. And eventually she was able to pass through the gap later on, and then she was able to tell the tale of what happened. There was also another situation that happened where these two men, in the winter time, there was snow everywhere, overcast. They found some pine trees. They walked into the pine trees, the woodland area, and in the distance there was like sunlight, so they walked all the way to the end of the woods, and they said that there was no snow but green grass everywhere, with a hill, and they said that there was sunlight, and 80 degrees it was, and they could hear the birds chirping and the squirrels chattering. But so what they did was they went and brought some other friends. They went back to camp, brought some other friends to come along, or some other people to come along to see what they'd seen. When they got back to the same woods and they went to the same area, there was, instead of there being grass, there was snow there, and there was no sunlight, but they could see their own impressions in the snow. So, and then afterwards, when they eventually left that place, the man went back to try and look for those woods, and he could never find those woods. He could never find them anywhere. My take on this would be that the girl at the fairy fort, she was trapped in fairyland, in another dimension, which means nobody could see her, but she could see other people, and also others, and the men. Those woods were part of another dimension. So it's almost like the spirit world has its own trees, it has its own world. That's why, for example, the ancient medieval monks, they chronicled the existence of fairyland, and there was meant to be a saint that went to a fairy castle. He met the king of the fairies, and there was a banquet there inside this castle. He wouldn't eat the food there. There was also other situations where there was someone practicing white witchcraft. He had knock on the hill, and he met the queen of the fairies, and he went inside of it, the hill, and so these are just some of the examples that people have actually experienced going into another dimension, walking inside of physical objects that shouldn't be possible, Now, what these fairy creatures can actually look like from eyewitness accounts is that they can be 9 inches tall, 18 inches tall, 3 to 4 feet, to human size, maybe like the size of an elf. They can be the ones that look like humans, like small women. They can be dressed in small skirts, very similar to Tinkerbell, maybe with legs very bare, And the colours can be like gaily coloured as well in the short skirt, as one eyewitness testimony had seen. It can be browns, greens and reds. They can have wings or no wings. They can also have small people that look like ugly, brown, wrinkled kind of creatures. And their abilities is that they can float. They can have their own language, it appears. They can influence people's thoughts, just like the demons down in hell can influence people's thoughts. They can do illusions, like create an instant a situation happen where they tried to imitate someone's house on fire to stop the men from draining the lake that was their own. And they can actually change, the fairy creatures can change their own appearance as well, which Brian Melvin had seen demons do down in hell. He saw demons imitate the dead, for example. And there's physical evidence that backs up that they do have to exist. There was a shoe found in Ireland. It was Harvard University analysed the shoe. It was worn down at the heel, about 2 inches long. It was made from mouse skin. And they said that there was, under the microscope, there was tiny hand-made stitches as well. And then, of course, you've got small arrowheads that were, a witch said that they were meant to be made by elves, and the elves were being directed by the devil himself. So we can see some hell connections with these fairy creatures, that they're actually part of the same family, in a sense. And also they even found small footprints as well. There's been evidence of small footprints. A newspaper editor had seen small footprints, and it seemed like as if they just vanished into thin air.